Good evening and welcome to another episode of A Real Point of View. My name is Greg Morgan. I am the real movie guy. And I'm joined by my two cohorts, Mr. Stephen C. and the incomparable movie maven herself, Miss Karen D. How you guys doing?
What's up?
Pretty good.
Good, good. Um, this has been a kind of a crazy past season of film. Not really sure what I was thinking was going to be this great 2019, but I wasn't as happy with the films. So here we are post the Oscars. Were you guys happy with who won? I mean, that's a fair question, right? Who won, and was it who you thought was going to win? And although the Oscars itself was a lot more entertaining than I thought it was going to be, still, I wasn't really thrilled about the films. So, anybody want to take a stab at, let's go with Best Picture. I thought it was going to be 1917, to be honest. And I liked a few movies in there. I actually didn't see it, but the trailers were awesome. The movies that I did see, I didn't think they were going to win. So, I saw Ford and Ferrari. I saw The Irishman. I tried to see Parasite like 5 different times. And those are the movies that I did see. What about you guys? What movies did you see before we actually talked about the winner?
Karen?
I didn't see very many of the. I didn't see very many of the Oscar Best Picture nominees. I think when we talked about doing a show on this, I said at that point in time that I thought 2019 was kind of a meh year for movies, and there wasn't a lot that was driving me. There wasn't a whole lot that was driving me to the movie theaters, and I guess I thought 1917 was going to do much better than it did. It sort of got what I might call the decorative Oscars. Best sound editing or best
Cinematography kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, best costumes or whatever. Those the ones that really don't matter, and unless you're in those fields, but none of like the big awards like best actor, best director, best none of that.
Right.
The most interesting part of the Oscars to me was when Parasite won Best Picture. I didn't see that one coming from a mile away.
Not
at
even.
all.
It's kind of funny. I think I even mentioned this. I have an acquaintance at my job who came to me like months ago saying, I asked him what movie he was looking to see, and he said, "Oh, Parasite for sure." And I was like, I hadn't even heard of it. And then he said, "Oh yeah, I saw it. It was really good. And I saw it in the theater. It was great." Oh, I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then when I was thinking about watching it, I said, "Wait a minute, there's subtitles." I'm not a big subtitle guy, but I'm subtitles, and I was like, "Man, I hope this isn't going to be like It Man, where you get the international thing, movies from the library. I got from the library to watch the movie, and they said it has subtitles. I said, okay, I guess I'll deal with that. And then when I start watching the movie, I was like, oh, this is in Cantonese. I said, okay, so they said it has subtitles. Who knew the subtitles were going to be in Mandarin? So it didn't go well for me. I was thinking, oh my goodness. I said, well, since I have it, I'll just watch it. Fortunately, it's kind of easy to follow, even with the subtitles that you could read either. So I was thinking, is this going to happen again? And so I asked him, I said, it was in English, right? He's like, yeah. Looked at me funny. So, hey, I'm just saying, this is a wild thing where it's a movie that had subtitles that not only did it win for Best Picture, it won for Best International Picture. Now, who wins 2 Oscars for Best Picture? In one Oscar?
I don't know. I think that's the first time that's ever happened in Oscars history.
Isn't that crazy?
Here's the thing that really, it won Best Picture, it won Best International, and it won Best Director.
I know, right?
And Best Screenplay, Best Original Screenplay.
Yeah. So literally, I mean, other than if you just count everything that goes into a movie without the actors, minus sound and things like that. Like top to bottom, it killed it.
I know, and,
Yep.
and here's the thing: when they were on stage, each time they keep wanting to work because it was like they got nominated 6 times and won 4. So finally, at the latter part of the show, a woman goes to the mic. She's like the smallest woman on the stage, and she walks over to the mic. And so you're like, okay, what else is going to be said? And then she goes, "This was really fun to be with all these people." And we're like, wait a minute, we've had a translator every time, and she speaks English.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't they have dubbed it in English maybe? Or
I actually
here's the thing.
actually think the one thing about the movie, when it comes to something like this is a movie that never needs to be translated in English. Like you don't need to dub it. Like the fact that it's gone over so well as itself, it never needs. You don't need the extra.
So here's the thing: you don't even need the subtitles. Do you know you can kind of figure out the movie as it's going along and kind of get the true gist of it without the subtitles? So is that because it's such a good movie that you can do that? Or is it so predictable that you can do that? Or
No.
is it better to have the subtitles and just mill your way through it and watch it again if you have to?
I feel like it's just like watching someone's body language. You could pretty much understand kind of what's going on based on someone's body language. And I feel like the movie itself has really good body language of what it's trying to do, and that it takes away from the subtitles. So you don't feel distracted by the subtitles. You're watching the movie, you're understanding what's going on, you're figuring everything out without having to worry about the subtitles. So it adds a little bit of depth to the movie. This is a movie, after watching it, if I never had any subtitles, I pretty much knew 100% what was going on after watching it like a second time.
Now, of course, I tried to watch it a few times and didn't get through it very much, but I guess the point in conjunction with what you're saying too, Steve, is I pretty much understood what was going on. And of course, I did read about what the movie was about essentially, but in essence of how the storyline was going and how things were going to, come into play, it made sense. So yeah, I guess it's pretty good. So let me ask you this. Say Parasite wasn't part of the equation. Who do you think should have won?
Joker.
Okay. I already said 1917 for me. What about you, Karen?
I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe 1917 just because of the grand scope of it all, but I'm so tired of grand scope war movies. Certainly not The Irishman, because I can tell you what I don't think should have won. I'm not even sure that The Irishman should have been nominated, even though it probably was. It was a good. I guess it was an okay film, but I think it was probably the weakest of Martin Scorsese's films. I mean, it just didn't bring anything new to the table in terms of storytelling. It was just like a retelling of the same story he's been telling for the last 50 years. Boring.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
and what was ironic for me was, other than the CGI, what was ironic for me was.
Don't get me started.
I'm sorry. I think I might say something that's going to provoke you, or ignite you, whichever the case may be. To watch these guys who are in their 70s and their 80s try to look like they're in their 60s and 70s, because they didn't get down to that 50s and 20s thing. That wouldn't happen. And all these Italian guys, and the most Italian guy being Irish.
Yeah.
It worked for me.
Yeah.
I just thought he was an Italian guy, and I kept saying, well, which one? I kept saying to myself, which one's the Irishman?
Yeah.
Robert De Niro was the Irishman. I was like, who'd have thought?
Yeah. I don't know.
So yeah,
I
agree.
know.
That shouldn't have been nominated. I saw that because that was on Netflix. I saw that and I was like, man, no way. Now me, I did enjoy Ford and Ferrari. Really enjoyed that. but I just thought the epic essence of 1917 would kind of pull through. Now, I know a lot of people talked about the Joker, and I know you talked about the Joker a lot, Steve, and I've yet to see it, but the trailers that I've seen is very promising. So even that would have been okay with me to have won. I don't know. I thought I had read Little Woman when I was younger because of school. But I didn't realize how strong-willed and strong-charactered and strong assertive essence these women in this story had. So it makes me actually want to watch the movie. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm actually going to watch it.
Well, I think it was Greta Gerwig's take on it. I mean, I remember reading Little Women by Louisa May Alcott when I was a kid.
Right.
And I certainly never got the sense from her writing that there was just this, it's sort of like these women just taking the stand almost like against all odds in their own different ways. But Little Women never came across that way. The way that Greta Gerwig was approaching it's like this revolutionary movie, these revolutionary concepts. And Little Women, at least the way that we discussed Little Women when I was in school, and I could be telling my age here, but, that it was never considered some revolutionary work or some undercover, like subversive, manifesto for the liberation of women at all. It was just, Little Women. Now, that said, I mean, maybe that was a mistake of the timing, and maybe it really was as subversive or as revolutionary as it seems to be in this retelling, and that just got missed, in the 20th century.
Copy that.
Copy that.
All right, let's jump off of this particular Oscar and jump to another Oscar. Leading Man. So, Steve, here, your prediction of the film is exemplified by the main actor in the film getting the Oscar. So why, in my opinion, and it's just a question, why a movie so good as The Joker is portrayed to be, and the actor, best actor, why wouldn't the film get a little more credence and be more toward, why wouldn't it have won? Why couldn't it have won if the actor was so great? The main actor win, and not just the main actor, but the actor who is the story, Joker.
This is true. You can obviously tell with the Parasite and the categories that it won that it itself did not have, an overbearing, strong character. It wasn't centered around a particular person. Right. So the Parasite would be a more complete film when it comes to top to bottom, the directing, the screenplay, the acting that is as a team putting it all together, where Joaquin Phoenix just knocks it out of the park on his lone self, that more people would view like his role being so big in the movie that it's more than the movie, which a lot of best actors winners do things like that where, okay, the movie doesn't win because the actor is more than the movie. Where this one, it is the whole film, is the entire connection that you have, where the Joker, our connection is with the Joker and everything that he specifically is going through. It's not entirely everything around him that's going on. It's him affecting everything around him and how everything around him is affecting him. Not necessarily, it's not major world building as much as it is character building. And I feel like that's why you could have a best actor, and that movie not win Best Picture.
But that to me was the exact
analogy.
same situation that occurred when Gary Oldman won for Churchill.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and in fact, there was chatter before the Oscars that his performance was just stunning that it pretty much overwhelmed the rest of the movie, and that any other good work that was done was pretty much overshadowed by Gary Oldman's performance. So, I wasn't surprised that Churchill didn't win Best Picture. I'm not even sure that it was nominated in the Best Director or Best Screenplay categories or any of the big awards. It was pretty much just Gary Oldman as Churchill. That was the whole story of Churchill. And I thought Churchill was a very good film, and I really enjoyed it. But Gary Oldman, he was like, the monster that ate Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Got it.
Makes sense.
All right. That makes sense. That made both of them make a lot of sense. All right, so why don't we jump to Best Actress Leading Role? I did see Harriet. Thought it was a decent film. I do like Cynthia Erivo's portrayal. I like her as an actress. I didn't necessarily see that it was so great that it was Oscar worthy, but I wasn't against it either. But then when they were talking about Charlize Theron in Bombshell and Scarlett Johansson in Marriage Story, I thought, okay. But what threw me a little bit for a loop was a movie that wasn't as popular, I guess. And again, obviously not being a part of the Academy, not knowing that I'd be able to screen all this stuff, but not a very popular movie, but a movie that you didn't know existed, was Judy. I didn't see it. I wasn't very, and don't get me wrong, I actually liked Judy Garland when I was younger, as a performer, as an actress, and even some of the stories to try to tell her story. But Renee Zellweger never even crossed my mind as being nominated. But yet here's a story similar, Steve, in scope as far as a story being about a particular character. Mm-hmm. Is this a little bit more like the same thing? Because again, Judy wasn't nominated for Best Picture either.
This is true. I could see it kind of being the same thing. In the same presence where you don't necessarily have the world building, you have the character building the world and the world shaping the character. So it's more about the character. Honestly, I feel with all of the movies in both of the categories, even though some of them are on the Best Picture list, a couple of them are on the Best Picture list, a couple of them aren't, that we had a lot of where it's more the character or specific characters than the world around them, with only a couple different, examples that kind of break that mold for the movies of the year. I feel like Judy, Renee Zellweger, did an awesome job from what I have seen of the movie, from all the information that I know about Judy Garland and the subject matter and all that. But I feel like it's kind of in the same boat where it's you kind of can't go as a best film if all you have is an actor or actress and they're a majority of the film.
So let me ask you this, and maybe I'm going to formulate it, I guess, best way I can. So is it fair? Would it be more appropriate to have similar type movies, similar ilk, to be more of a competitive nature for the leading role actor, actress, where the other movies, as you alluded to, Steve, might have been more complete? And is it harder to be a best actor or actress in those roles because because the movie is so complete, you have to be that much more noticeable than a
Well,
movie where you're the main character.
well,
Where the character again makes the movie makes the character.
right. I feel if it's going to be a more complete movie when it comes to a competition for Best Picture, you can't you can have a Best Actor. It's not impossible to have a Best Actor or Best Actress in the movie, but they can't be the supreme focus of the movie. Maybe their parts are just so amazing and their portrayal of those parts are so amazing that they can win the Best Picture or Best Actor or Best Actress, or the like the three billboards.
Mm-hmm.
They killed every category. The three billboards over
from Ebbing, Missouri.
Yes, from Ebbing, Missouri. They killed every category, and that was because the movie itself was complete, and it wasn't just the character herself that won, because she won Best Actress that year, I believe.
Correct.
It wasn't just her.
It was
and
Frances
the movie,
McDormand, and
yes,
she did win Best Actress.
It was the whole movie, and her part of it was so great in the screen time that she had and the moments where she had to make it matter when it came to her acting and the way the audience is supposed to feel in reaction to everything she's doing and what she's trying to get done. But the rest of the movie was also carrying with that. It wasn't just her carrying the whole movie.
Yeah, because they got the Best Supporting Actor.
It got Best Supporting Actor. It got Best Actress, Best Picture.
So that's a, that would be technically kind of an enigma then, in retrospect. I'm just wondering, like with all these seemingly great actresses and performances, both in the two categories that are aforementioned, if there were 2 or 3 other movies like Judy and 2 or 3 other movies like The Joker in those respective categories, would that competition be harder than the ones here where the movies are more complete, but yet the actor and actress in these categories had movies where it was purely about that character directly? I'm just saying, how fair or unfair, or is it really a moot point, really?
I feel like it just is.
It's a moot point.
I don't think it's a moot point, but I just feel like it is. It just not it being a moot point, but the fact that it just, the subject matter just is. Like, you have 2 strong contending people for Best Picture and Best Actor. Somebody's got to win something.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Just throwing it out there.
And some of it may be just that. I mean, I think some of this just sort of kind of highlights a potential weakness just in the Academy system itself, because there's so much politicking going on. There's so much, so much of what, I mean, even getting to be nominated has almost as much to do with politics as it does with quality. Box office weighs in extremely heavily. And then there's also this sort of like this version of, well, did we skip over somebody that we shouldn't have skipped over? Is this person too young to win even though they were amazing? Or is this person too old to win even though they were amazing? Did this person piss off the wrong people, so we're not giving them an award? We don't care how amazing they were. Did they kiss up to the right people, so they get an award even though they don't deserve it? There's so much in the way of politics, and I think some of that noise just kind of overwhelms an actual objective viewpoint on what's really going on with the movie. So I think it's relatively easy to focus on like the guy or the woman that is the centerpiece of a movie and just hone in on that and not really care about the rest of it. It's easier to do that and just kind of like, reward that kind of performance than it is to look at it holistically and sort of see, and it's almost like, well, the cinematography isn't that important if you get Judy Garland right. Who cares about cinematography? Except that you're supposed to, except that it's really important. And if it's not done right, can be the most distracting thing on the screen. Right. But I think in terms of like awards, that kind of gets short shrift.
Yeah, good point.
If you've got like the 900-pound gorilla in the form of a character, especially if the character is based on a biographical presentation of a person who's considered larger than life, like Winston Churchill, like Judy Garland, like Lincoln.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. Okay, so did you say elephant or gorilla?
Gorilla.
Okay, so I'm going to bring in the other gorilla in the room. How is it that there's a movie about a particular person, as you said, or somewhat biographical essence, and the movie is about that person, and they get nominated for a supporting actor? How'd that happen?
Bad Agent.
Oh, I'm just saying. Well, there's two reasons that I think that it happened, and because I'm right.
Because no matter what, I'm right.
Because I'm right in this situation. The reason why it happened to some degree is that it actually might even be three reasons. One, it's Tom Hanks.
Yeah, Tom Hanks is okay.
We know what that means in our podcast. Mm-hmm. What Tom Hanks means. So it makes total sense that he's nominated for supporting actors in a movie that he's about the man he's portraying. Mm-hmm. And then It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's the second reason that he's nominated like that, because he's playing such an iconic character that even he is not good enough to be the primary lead role, because the person he's portraying is still the lead.
The way you say that is so.
I can't agree. I can't agree with that. That's not the dealio. Come on, dude.
Mr. Rogers supersedes anything Tom Hanks tried to do, which is rare, because we know how. We have our Tom Hanks rants all the time. But Tom Hanks is in the movie portraying the main character of Mr. Rogers, and It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and he gets nominated for supporting actor. What?
But the movie isn't. The movie's about Mr. Rogers, but it's really about the reporter's exploration of, or the author, or the writer's exploration of Mr. Rogers and his journey about finding out who Mr. Rogers really was. That's why Tom Hanks is supporting actor, and not.
Hear me out. No, it's partially because of Tom Hanks. I'm telling you.
Well, I think he and his agent agreed to go for supporting actor because maybe they thought he had a better shot at an Oscar as a supporting actor than he would as an actor.
And I think that's and all kidding aside, I think that is partially true. Now,
I can't disagree with that logic. That logic's pretty sound.
The irony is that I've seen different Mr. Rogers movies. I don't even know why I did that, but I did. And the irony is, each of the movies that are talking about Mr. Rogers are talking about Mr. Rogers, and he's not ever the main character.
Never.
Well, he had a bad agent too.
He did. I don't know if he did. But
it was Mr. Rogers.
No, I don't know if he did either.
If anybody,
because
okay.
To be honest,
if we're going to continue
documentaries, I think it was all Mr. Rogers there.
If we're going to loop,
no, it was his deal. Believe me.
If we're going to loop this around to say anything bad about Mr. Rogers, I'm leaving this podcast.
we're going to leave this
Oh my
podcast
gosh.
session anyway soon because we're just going to go into a secondary situation. I can feel it.
Right. So let's
Now,
back off
okay.
Mr. Rogers.
Last
Like
thing I'm gonna
my
say
childhood
about
is my childhood's serious risk level here of like, all right,
Okay.
I don't care what we say about Tom Cruise. Stop bad mouthing Mr. Rogers.
Okay.
You mean Tom Hanks?
Yeah, Tom Hanks. Stop saying.
Who also
See,
is playing
that-
Tom Cruise.
Who is
So
also
that's-
playing
that's
Tom
what-
Cruise
So-
in Top Gun
So when
secretly.
Top Gun comes out and the guy can't even get in the cockpit, we know it's because it's Tom Hanks because he's having a flashback from Private Ryan, and he's having a flashback from being the executive producer of what's that other war movie thingy?
Saving Private
Band
Ryan.
of Brothers.
Mm.
Okay.
Band of
So-
Brothers.
Oh, Band of Brothers.
So now here's my last thing I'm gonna say. My rant here is Joe Pesci for The Irishman. Was Joe Pesci nominated because he did such
Ew.
a good job in The Irishman, or was he nominated because it's
No,
like, this
because
is
he's
his-
old.
Is this like his last opportunity to possibly get it?
It's the last hurrah.
Probably.
It's the last
I actually
hurrah.
like
They won.
Joe Pesci, but here's the problem with Joe Pesci for me. In all the movies that I've seen him in, and I've liked him in quite a few, to be honest with you, the one I liked him in the most would never, ever be nominated for anything other than it was a quirky, funny movie.
Mm-hmm.
My
And
Cousin
what
Vinny.
movie was that?
My Cousin Vinny.
Oh, yeah.
That was actually pretty good.
It was
And Joe Pesci was funny. He was funny. He was quirky. I liked him in it.
hilarious.
All the dramatic roles that he played that I liked him in, mostly gangster roles, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This was the last hurrah, and it didn't work. Didn't work out.
Like Joe
Yeah.
Pesci's a guy we're always gonna remember. Nobody's ever gonna like
I
not
think I remember him a
Joe
lot
Pesci.
more. I think I remember him a lot more than Brad Pitt.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely memorable in Lethal Weapon. He was kind of like the only person really memorable in Lethal Weapon and Lethal Weapon 2, not 1.
I liked him in the Lethal
Okay,
Weapon,
not the
but-
only person.
But memorable? He was like
Okay.
Wait a minute, he was memorable in Lethal. Wasn't he in Lethal Weapon?
Yeah,
Greg got it. Greg got it. Greg got it.
Steve just did an imitation of him in Lethal
Yeah,
Weapon.
Greg got it. Yeah, Greg got it. That worked out perfectly. I knew Karen was gonna whiff that one. Okay.
Whatever. And stop doing Joe Pesci imitations.
He did.
Okay.
Oh,
my
man, that was
God.
good.
I know. It's kind of what I do. It's the whole reason I'm here. Now, so since I feel like we need to move on
Well, let's move on into
because Karen doesn't remember memorable actors in Lethal Weapon, and I feel like that's a travesty unto itself.
I remember lots of memorable actors in Lethal Weapon.
We're bad mouthing Mr. Rogers. I don't care if it's Tom Hanks or not.
We didn't badmouth Mr. Rogers. We badmouthed Tom Hanks playing Mr. Rogers.
You bad mouth Mr. Rogers' agent, which we all know was Mr. Rogers. So stop.
That's true. So,
I just
Mr. Rogers
said he could have done a better job with
Mr.
getting him to start
Rogers.
The
billing.
man saved public broadcast televisions.
He did. Single-handedly.
Single-handedly.
Now, if you live in Chicago, it was actually Ray Rayner and Cutley Dudley, but we won't go there.
No, it was oh God, I just forgot his
The
name.
man literally
Fraser
just
It was
Thomas.
Garfield Goose. It was Ray
Fraser
Rayner
Thomas.
and
Fraser Thomas.
Fraser Thomas,
Yes.
who, as it turns out, was like a real mean drunk. But anyway,
No, that was Bozo. That was Bozo on Bozo Circus.
no. Fraser Thomas was.
And Bozo too.
No, Bozo was also.
Bozo too. Because when I was there, I was like, who's this mean man? It's not Bozo. Step to the line. Throw the ball. Okay, and that's how you do it. And then when the camera came on, okay, boys and girls, boys and girls. It was like, if you only knew that this dude was like a bandit.
I've met some terrible human beings back in my day.
I know, and they were on public television. That's the problem. You'd have done better if we watched wrestling and Dick the Bruiser and the Crusher.
Yeah.
That would have been better.
Yeah, would have been better.
It would have been better.
All right.
Which means, and I also saw that movie with The Rock, the wrestling movie. That was actually not that bad.
Yeah, the one with about Paige.
Yeah, Paige, and it is a biopic story.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not. All right, gang. So, what's another good feature here? Let's see here. Okay, this is just for fun. We were talking about cinematography. So, the movie award that Karen alluded to for 1917 was cinematography. That's what they won for. Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it was deserved because, it was obvious that Sam Mendes put, just the amount of work that went into just trying to capture this movie, the scope of this movie was, it was like a gargantuan amount of work. I mean, just the choreography of those fight scenes was amazing in and of itself.
Exactly.
So it's not like that movie, well, it's not like it didn't deserve that movie. I'm just amazed that people can pull off that sort of, storytelling about the horrors of war, So, I'm sure it was deserved.
Yeah.
So
cinematography was awesome.
Greg, I want you to tell me who else is in the cinematography category? Like what are the other movies are in the cinematography category?
For CGI, it's The Irishman.
Right.
For landscape and essence, it's The Joker.
Okay.
For just being Hollywood and Hollywood-esque, it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Right.
But if we want to see shadowing, we want to see the sky turn and simplicity and minimalistic essence in cinematography, it's a Lighthouse.
Right. So we have these movies, and the cinematography is, really good. I also want to go down here to, what is this? Because they could all kind of fit in here somewhere.
Keep that thought, Steve, because we're going to go to part 2 of this conversation. And in part 2, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and listen to what Steve has to say about the connection with cinematography and the other category, plus talk about movies that we're looking forward to seeing in 2020. So thanks for hanging out with us here. Hold on. We'll be back with another episode of A Real Point of View, talking about future film. Until then, see you guys later. Peace. Okay, we're still here. Okay, we're leaving.